6 of the Chicago Bears draftees in this past draft were listed by ESPN 100 in the top 100 draft selections in the draft. We're going to talk about that. Plus, we have the week 1 opponent for the Chicago Bears release, and that is the Green Bay Packers. We'll talk about that and free agents that the Chicago Bears could still pursue in free agency. We're going to talk about all that and more right after this.
You are now tuned in to Chicago Bears Central, your number one place for all Chicago Bears news and content.
What's going on, Bears fans? Welcome to another episode of Chicago Bears Central, your number one spot for everything Chicago Bears related. If you want to follow me right off the top, you can do so at CEO Haize. That's CEO Haize. If you want to follow the show, you can do so at Chi Bears Central on every social media platform that we are on. But with that being said, let's jump into the content for today. We had 6 of our draftees listed by ESPN in the top 100 list from this past draft. And those players include Darnell Wright coming in at number 16, Tyler Scott coming in at number 27, Terrell Smith coming in at number 44, and Roschon Johnson being listed as number 46, Gervon Dexter at 68, and Tyreek Stevenson at number 82. That means we have 4 Chicago Bears listed in the top 50, and then 2 that fall still out of that, but still in the top 100. And that just goes to show the depth, the quality, and everything else. I've talked about it on yesterday's episode, right? Around the league, around a lot of pundits and analysts, the Chicago Bears got this year's draft correct. And while some of our lower picks actually rank higher than our higher picks in the actual draft, that just goes on to show the potential that we got here in this draft. Now, for that to be said, though, potential isn't always realized. While the Bears got a lot of potential, we'll see how many of these picks end up turning into impact players for the Chicago Bears over the course of their career, much less year 1. But at least right now, it just goes to show that Ryan Poles is doing things right? And the draft is always about potential. The biggest story of the draft is always told in hindsight after you have a couple of years removed, after you see how these players develop, after you see the roles that they're going to fit into. That's where the story of the draft is always told. But at least the Bears put themselves in a good position with the quality talent that they were able to get in this year's draft, and that's just what it boils down to. Not every Bears fans are happy about it, but it is what it is. We got a lot of quality and depth in this draft. Let's hope that draft turns into something meaningful for the Chicago Bears. So we'll end up seeing what that means. And so, listen, how do you guys feel hearing how many Bears were ranked in the top 100 of the most recent, in the most recent draft? Let me know what you guys think. I think looking at this, we already know some of the dogs that are on this roster. Darnell Wright is going to be, all eyes are going to be on Darnell Wright and what he does for the Chicago Bears in this initial season. Tyler Scott as well. You just hear more coming out about his name and kind of how the Bears see him and how he's viewed as well by a lot of analysts and around the league. Not that necessarily matters. Everything matters that comes on the field. But at least there. Terrell Smith too. This is kind of the first time that I'm really hearing Terrell Smith's name brought up in the way that it is. And we'll see that. But the fact that he ranked in the top 50 of all draftees, that's what they're seeing him as. Hey, he may turn some head and wake some people up to what he can be. We hope that this secondary is going to be beastly for the Chicago Bears. And I like the talent. I like everything that we have there. And when you look at him and what he can bring in, hey, there's a lot of reasons to be excited overall for the Chicago Bears. And listen, we'll end up seeing, man. I am super happy about our draft, super happy what this team could turn into. But let's move on from that. We have some schedule leaks now for the Chicago Bears. We know our week 1 and week 18 opponents, and we're starting off the season in week 1 against Jordan Love and the Green Bay Packers. Now, if you guys have been paying attention or following this show for a while, me, C-Dub, Bobby, we are all want to just beat the Packers. And the fact that we get to start our season off against the Packers at 4:25 Eastern time, hey, all eyes are going to be on this game around Bears Nation, because if the Bears can go in and take care of business, would I have loved for it to happen with Aaron Rodgers, for us to go in to Green Bay and get a win against Aaron Rodgers? I would have loved that. But it seems right now, hey, we're going to be playing the Packers week 1 and week 18. Those are our opponents. So we start and end our seasons with the Green Bay Packers. I wonder how often there's been that much space between Bears and Packers matchup. The fact that we're starting our season off against them and wrapping up our season against them, hey, that's going to be fun fun times. And I actually said we start off our season in Green Bay. The first game is actually at home. So we face them in Chicago at Soldier Field to start our season off, and we end at Green Bay on Lambeau Field. And it's, hey, listen, what a great way to book in the season, right? Hopefully a season has changed. Hopefully also a season in which we are better than the Green Bay Packers, and it will be a great, kind of storybook to open and book in our season with the Green Bay Packers, and hopefully we get more wins in that. But listen, I'm excited. I'm petty. It is what it is. I hate the Cheeseheads. I hate the Green Bay Packers. I hope Zach Pickens tackles Jordan Love. I hope we sack him a bunch of times. Listen, it is what it is. But at least for the petty meter, I love the fact that we're starting off our season and ending our season against the Green Bay Packers. Let me know what you guys think on that one down below. But before we go, we want to talk about some free agents that the Bears could potentially still target in this upcoming free agency before they start the season. And it's really kind of, it's ones we've talked about before, right? I'm not going to bury the lead and act like it's like this huge thing. It's two free agents that there are questions about for different reasons. First up, Frank Clark, right? Defensive end. Edge is the position that we didn't really address too much. We got DeMarcus Walker, who shapes up to probably play on that edge, especially with what we did in the NFL draft. And so, Frank Clark and what he does in pass rush specifically could definitely help kind of solidify what the Bears have already been good at, right? And so, or what we need help at. And then so, he had 5 sacks in 15 games last season. But it's not just about the sack number. It's also about pressure. And I think sometimes when we talk about the Chicago Bears defense and that defensive line, we just focus on the sacks. Don't get me wrong. I even said it right now against the Packers. We want sacks. We want to get sacks. We want to attack the quarterback. But pressures are just as important as well, especially when we look at what we're probably going to bring from that interior on the defensive line with Matt Eberflus' system. So because of that, with Frank Clark being a reliable player, being a veteran, not too old is all. He's 29 years old. So again, doesn't quite fit the timeline and age of players that Ryan Poles has signed so far. Still not over 30, a player that can come in. At this point, you probably also expect him to probably be able to be signed for a reasonable amount. That contract is what's going to imagine. But when you have a team that finished low in pressures and the lowest in the NFL in sacks, getting somebody who can come in, even if he does just get 5 sacks, but with the way that he pressures the quarterback, Frank Clark, to do good. The biggest question is scheme fit there, of course, but I think he'll be fine in this scheme. I don't really have too many concerns there. You guys can let me know what you think down below. And then the next one is Yannick Ngakoue. And this is a guy that we've talked about a lot. I thought he may be even a free agent target for the Bears as free agency open. But the fact that, he's a talented edge rusher, right? The fact that he's even still there at on the market right now is surprising to some people. Yeah, he's been up and down. He does have some issues. That's why he's played on 5 teams over 7 years. And he's a journeyman. It just is what he is. 28 years old. He's already been on 7 teams. But he's notched 8 or more sacks every single year that he played. Now, there is some concern there about taking plays off. And there is some people of teams and fans of teams that he's been on that he takes some plays off, that he kind of lounges around. He doesn't really play as hard in effort. And that may be what's keeping him from getting a deal. But the fact of the matter is, as we get closer to the start of the season, if you do bring him in, that risk is kind of mitigated because the longer it goes on, the less of a contract he's probably going to get. If you get him for a reasonable deal, if he does end up coming in, he's lazy. Let's say Travis Gibson, Dominique Robinson, anybody else outshines him, you cut him. You keep it moving, right? You're not bringing him in as a marquee free agent. You're bringing him in to come in and do what he does well. And, that concern of him taking plays off, being lazy sometimes, I won't act like that's not a legitimate concern because it absolutely is. But at the end of the day, it's like, hey, you need talent, and we can use talent on the defensive end. But like I said earlier before, too, that's if Ryan Poles even feels the need to address the edge because, yeah, in Matt Eberflus' system, the interior attack from that defensive line is more important than the edge in a lot of ways, but you still want some pressure, some talent on that edge position as well. So we'll see. But one of the things that I want to talk about before we leave is one of our rookies from last season, and that's Kyler Gordon, right? Kyler Gordon, who last season played 431 snaps in the slot, 295 outside, and they expect to maybe make the transition to moving him fully on the inside, and you look at Tyreek Stevenson and what he can do as far as coming in, getting looks as well. But Terrell Smith, and that's a player that I just mentioned that I was kind of surprised to see listed in ESPN Top 100. But considering 5th-round pick, right? He doesn't have very much slot experience. So, when you're looking at that depth chart, there's going to be options of him to be on the outside there. But could Kyler Gordon and now the unexpected competition at that cornerback situation, could it push him to really step up? And I think that Kyler Gordon, how he adapts, how he comes out in year 2 is going to be hugely important for the Bears overall, and how kind of that secondary works out. So, and even what I see here is like they're saying that Gordon may only play 70% of the snaps where he was getting 100% of the snaps last season. Listen, if that's what it comes down to, one thing that we know with this coaching staff, they are not afraid to experiment. And now we have a lot of depth at that cornerback position, and how that position shapes up, we can send multiple looks at teams in our secondary. And I really do think that the Bears secondary could be. I'm not saying for sure yet. I want to see how it comes together, but I definitely think that the Bears secondary could be definitely one of our extreme strengths coming into next season, and also could be something that surprises some teams. When you look at the quickness, speed, the hard hitting that we have on that cornerback side, listen, I think we're going to get really interesting there. When you look at Jalen Johnson, Kyler Gordon, Kendall Fedor should be all but off the depth chart at this point, right? Terrell Smith, Tyreek Stevenson, even what Jalen Jones may bring. I'm excited about what we have on this field in our secondary, and I think it may be something that actually benefits us a lot coming into next year. But that's it. That's my time for today. Thank you so much for being the best part of Chicago Bears Central. Make sure you guys are following the show at Chi Bears Central. You can send us any feedback, questions, comments, concerns, chicagobearscentral@gmail.com. And lastly, if you want to leave a text message and our voicemail, the number to do so, 773-242-9336. And like I like to end every episode on, bear down. Love you guys. Peace, y'all.
This has been a presentation of the Break Media.